Fantastic. Okay, we are live on Facebook.
And we are.
Let's just close that down real quick. Sorry, everyone looking at my sleeve in Facebook world. There we go.
Yep. Hey, Mary Beth. Hello,
Hi.
hello. Why am I not going live?
There we go.
Here I am. Yay.
Okay.
We just need to make sure
Adjust the
that all
sound.
the sound is adjusted, and then we'll be on. Thank you guys for joining us. We're excited to be
Hello.
back together. Oh, the sound is bad.
Are we better? Okay.
Can you see me? Oh,
I can see you.
Okay, I am a little low. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm
We're just gonna roll with
sorry.
it.
We're just gonna roll with it like we always do. So it's all right. It's all good. So welcome everybody. Kim and I are back together.
We are.
We took a little break last week. Well, I took a little break. Kim was on. She was so on. I attended a conference, the very first in-person conference in a very long time.
Good
So
for
that was a
you.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
But Kim held down the fort over here. How'd you do, Kim?
I think I did pretty good. And we actually went on a little later than normal because we were also involved in taping George to the Rescue. So I had to go for the reveal. So that we'll keep you posted when our episode for George to the Rescue will be live. I think it's in September. So yeah.
How fun.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a
Awesome.
lot now that things are starting to open up again. There's a lot that's going on. So
That's exciting.
yeah.
So you guys, today we're going to be talking about window treatments in kids' rooms.
Yes.
I'm surprised that we haven't broached the subject, Kim. It's been a
I
year and
know.
we haven't talked about baby or kids' rooms. So
Nope.
here we go. Without further ado, right?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. Here we are.
Okay, so this project is one that we did for House of Funk. It was a nursery that was on the waterfront here in New Jersey in Weehawken. So these windows in these condos tend to be floor to ceiling and they overlook the beautiful skyline of Manhattan. I always say that on the Jersey side, we have the prettier view. Because we get to look at Manhattan instead of the buildings of Weehawken and such. But here we had a couple of challenges because the windows are floor to ceiling basically, and it is a nursery, and the requirements of trying to get the room dark and also needing a little bit of privacy there and to kind of diffuse the light that reflects from the Hudson River into the windows and whatnot. So here, you can't tell in the picture, but it is a two-layer process. So we have an operable ripple fold drape that is mounted to the ceiling in front of the windows, and then what we have behind is a motorized blackout shade. Now
Oh, wow, cool.
it's one big shade, and being that the size of the window you can see here, so we opted to do like a low voltage plug-in shade, so that this way you're not worrying about the weight or the power going out in the building. You literally or the battery's running out, excuse me. The only time it matters is if the power goes out in the building. So all they have to do is click a button and the shade comes down and then it rolls back up into metal fascia. Now we also did a white metal fascia so that this way it kind of just disappeared right into the ceiling, and we did a non-decorative ripple fold track again in white so that it was innocuous since we did mount it into the ceiling.
And the front layer is a sheer fabric. Is that what that is?
Yes, it's a sheer ripple fold drape.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautifully done.
Thank you.
So this is a project that we did for a model home. The builder here is Rockwell Custom, which is a well-known builder here in the Philadelphia area. And the designer is Z Domus Designs, and Rose Zaffarino is the owner of Z Domus, and we've been doing a lot of projects together over the last 3 to 4 years or so. And if anybody has done any kind of model homes, they know that there has to be a kids room or like a kids space. So there's always like a master, there's a guest, and there's usually like a baby room and or a kid's room and or space. So this was actually, I believe, like a 4-story type of unit.
Okay.
And this was all the way upstairs in the loft. And this was like a total kids hangout area. Yeah.
Cool.
So you can see beanbag chairs and a TV on the wall and a funky way she decided to paint the wall, and like a mesh hammock type of seating area. So she had a lot going on in the room as it is. So we decided to keep the window treatment fairly understated. This is a straight box pleat valance, and the way it's appearing in the picture, it might as well be a cornice board, actually. So either way is fine, as long as you're treating something at the top of the window, just to kind of give it a little bit of a kind of like an eyelash curl. You know?
Yeah.
So this was a simple houndstooth fabric, and again, this is sort of, it's disappearing on the window because the main focus is the actual kid's space. So it's okay to not bring focus to the window all the time. It's okay for it to kind of disappear and take a second or a third seat to everything that's happening in the room. But the important part here is that, just like the eyelash curler thing or the mascara on the eyelashes, it's important to treat it even a little bit and not completely forget about it.
Right. No, it came out great. I love the hammock idea. Is really, it just looks like a fun.
Rose. She did a great job.
Yeah, that's. I thought for a second you were like, and we made this hammock, and I was about to be like, oh my god, it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't put it past you to figure out.
It wouldn't surprise me either, but in this case, we didn't. We're like, just window treatments. Thank you very much. We're out of here.
I mean, we've made a princess floor, a pig bag, just the crazy things.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, this next project we did last year for JLA. They are out of their main base is out of Potomac, Maryland, but they have an office here in New Jersey. So we have the great honor of working on their window treatments in the New Jersey and New York area. And unlike our previous photo where it was floor to ceiling window treatments, this window expands wall to wall. It's not quite floor to ceiling, but they are pretty high up. So what we did was, again, we mounted it as high as we possibly could go. And a lot of times in these high rises, in these condos, there really isn't that much space to go other than the ceiling because of where the windows are placed with heating systems and things like that. You can't really mount on the wall above the window like you would in like a residential home, because then you have to get some kind of bracket that projects out 6-7 inches to kind of clear whatever heating system that there is here. So this particular window treatment went wall to wall, and we ended up doing it as a one-way left panel. We didn't want to do it as a pair because the window died, again, because Manhattan, not everything is symmetrical, haha. So the window,
Manhattan or otherwise, I don't feel like windows are ever, square or symmetrical.
They're never like, oh, we're going to just put it right in the center of the room and it's going to be perfect. No, so what happened here was the window died into the right wall, and then we probably had about like 3 feet of just solid wall on the left side. So what we decided was, what the best thing to do is just make this go wall to wall, give the illusion that the window is actually going wall to wall, and we'll just occupy that 3 extra feet and our stack will go there. So this way, when they want to have light and whatnot, you just bring the window treatment all the way over to the left. And this was done on a baton draw because it is a baby's room. So with cords and things like that, you do have that kind of flexibility. And we did black outline the drapes, even though the customer has blackout shades behind the drapes. We opted to black out the drapes for the sheer fact of trying to make the room as dark as possible. Because sometimes if you need it like Las Vegas dark, 1 layer is not going to do the trick. Sometimes you need 2 and 3 layers.
Oh, 100%. When I had my first child, I put in actually a non-blackout shade because, I was a first-time mom, and I thought my kid's going to sleep no problem. I mean, I'm not going to create any additional conditions for him to sleep better. 2 days later, I'm like, give me 1 blackout shade and then another blackout shade and the channels and whatever else it takes.
The whole thing. I mean, we have had to do that in nurseries where we've had not only the side channel, but the bottom rail, and then the cornice over top with the panels, like
whatever it takes to make them sleep.
Exactly. So
nicely done, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, this is another project that we did for Rockwell and for Z Domus, Rose Zeffirino. And this, of course, is a very pretty princess room. And actually, full credit to Rose. She's the one who did the crown and she kind of mounted the whole thing. We just did the draperies here.
Nice.
And the draperies are a very lightweight linen. They're slightly embroidered. They kind of coordinate together with that princess crown that she did. So, and they're also in like a light whitish, creamish color. The rod, I believe, was antique gold or some kind of gold finish, which is really in right now, of course, as we know. So just a very, that pink throw is one of the highlights of the room, one of the centerpieces. The crown is one of the centerpieces. The wall, like flowers that Rose did there. I mean, she's just so incredibly creative that oftentimes, not always, there are definitely times where we do use window treatments as the heroes of the room, but oftentimes she's so creative, we kind of do take the back seat, and we're happy to do so. And in this case, it is, again, just framing the window, adding some texture, adding a little bit of color, softness, but it is really the bed that's the main hero here for a princess.
Yes, yeah, and I always love using like a neutral color too in kids' rooms because as they tend to grow, I used to call it like the camp rush, like right around this time. We would be getting parents that are coming in and they're like, we got to redo our kids' rooms while they're away at camp. And we have 5 weeks to get it done and yada, yada. So it's that whole thing.
Funny.
Yeah. So I always call it my camp rush because, you design your room thinking for nursery in mind, and then children grow and then they're just like, I don't want this. I want something a little bit more simple. So I'm finding it, I don't know about you, Vita, that when people are designing more and more nurseries now, they're tailoring it to a little bit more of like a mature type of nursery as opposed to a lot of like the cutesy kind of things.
100%.
Right? Yeah. So this is like a perfect example of like, hey, when this child is over the princess room, the white drapes are still going to look fabulous with no matter what you pick.
You got it. Good job.
So this next project we just installed a couple weeks ago for Hudson and Bloom Interiors. This is a boy nursery room, and it's kind of hard to tell in the picture, but these are actually ombre drapes. So they start at a white, and then they go down to kind of like a paler blue. Now with this, these panels are only 90 inches long. But the fabric, the repeat on the fabric, the ombre expanded, I think, like 124 inches. So it was one of those things, knowing that it was an ombre ahead of time, I said, all right, when it's your turn at the table, we'll roll it out and we'll play with the placement of where you want the drape to stop and start. So we kind of gave them a couple of options. And, then it was like, oh, can we move the tape up like 2 inches from here and 2 inches from here? And that's the beauty part about going custom, is that you really have that flexibility of like picking where you want the pattern to stop and start. And this is another key thing, that when you're dealing with window treatment professionals like Vita and myself, these are the kind of details that we're going to point out to you. And we're going to say, hey, you're dealing with an ombre. Do you know where you want it to stop and start? Do you want it where the light starts at the top and it goes dark at the bottom? Or do you want to flip it? Do you want it where it's dark at the top and light at the bottom? And where are we stopping and starting it there? Because I have heard horror stories of an ombre fabric being used. The window treatment company did not ask, hey, where do you want this to stop and start? And they only probably had like 4 inches of ombre at the bottom, and it was a darker taupe, so it just looked like the bottom hem of the panels were dirty.
Because and what do? You have to reorder a whole new.
You have to it just looked like, and sometimes some of these ombres on linens, they're dyed, and the way that they're dyed, it's not a perfect line. So like you're not, even when you're seaming it, you're not going to get a perfect, match on the seam. And so the way that this one was, it just looked like there was water damage on brand new panels.
Totally
you see what I mean? Like where it kind of had that fade and that wave.
Yeah, so, like the line.
Yeah. So this was something that the client did separate outside of the designer, and the designer texted me. She was like, "What happened here?" I was like, "Well, it kind of looks like it's an ombre, and they didn't specify placement. So they started at the top of the repeat of the panel, and they went all the way down.
That's
So
a shame. What a
yeah.
shame. And Kim, I do have to second and third and fourth and tenth everything that you just said, because we also had several instances of ombre fabric, and we specifically waited for the fabric to come in. And P.S., it takes a long time for ombre fabric to come in because it's printed on demand. And so we would wait for that and then would invite the designer into the workroom, and sometimes the client, and decide exactly where we're starting and where we're stopping. And the same thing goes for any kind of large repeat,
Mm-hmm.
or repeat that is like funky. So if you think of like Schumacher,
Yes.
Schumacher comes to mind with like a monkey and a horse and a tiger
And a big leaf. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and if you're doing like a straight box pleat valance, you want the monkey here and the horse here and and you have, if you have several of these going across several windows, then you have to be very specific and intentional about where you place that pattern. So, and to your point, it's only with a custom workroom that invites you in and has that conversation. And even before the conversation, has even the thinking, the foresight to know to talk about it or to suggest it.
Yeah, that's why
to the designer.
It's always important too. And I know a lot of times in the design process, the fabrics aren't always like nailed down, and those details aren't nailed down in like the measuring process. But if there's anything you take away from this video, if you're speccing an ombre fabric before you order it, please, 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 please have your window treatment specialist take a look at it and tell you what you need to order. Just don't go based off of like, just don't throw us a width and a repeat, because then we get it and we're like, no. Yeah.
It's a shame when that happens. Yeah. And it has happened. I mean, Kim does not talk about it in theory.
No.
We talk about it from, experience. Yes, yeah. Empirical evidence. Okay, so this is a really cool project also for Rockwell and also for Rose. And of course, just like we said before, there's a master, there's a guest, and there's 2 kids' rooms, and this was a boys' room. Nice. Also, to Kim's earlier point, not a baby room, more of like older adolescent boy room, and clearly he is into fishing. Yes. Yeah. Usually these rooms, they have a theme, because with model homes, you want to have a memorable room. You want people to go away and say, oh, because the realtor, or not the realtor, the designer and the builder knows that their potential buyers are seeing several houses. They want to have a memory point. So they want the buyers to walk away, and then maybe at the end of the day, as they look through all of the houses that they've seen during the day, they want to say, remember that house with the princess bed, or remember that house with the fish hanging around in the room, or remember that house. So there's always a memory point somewhere in the house.
Yeah, even the kids, like, I'm sure they're like, I want the shark room. Like, it's that whole,
exactly. So this valance, actually, I'll show you a close-up of it.
Yeah, everyone needs to see a close-up of this.
Come on, PowerPoint, please. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
He decided to cooperate. So this was a kind of like a fishnetty sort of fabric that we hemmed, but we didn't necessarily make a swag out of it. We just kind of carefully and intentionally threw it on a rod. The rod was not just any rod. It was a piece of wood, it was a branch, it was a stick, essentially, that I found in my backyard. We kind of finished it off and cleaned it off and whatnot, but it's an actual birch tree stick that's what we're using for the rod there. And then I don't tell my husband, I went through my husband's lure boxes and picked off a couple of lures to hang on this little fishnet kind of valance. So it was very fishy, very fisherman style, really cool. And again, just serves as a really great memory point.
Yeah, and these are the kinds of, like, I love it when we can kind of think out of the box and work on these kinds of projects, so it's not the same, like, one with panels, 1.5 widths on a rod, blah, blah, blah. So it's cool when we can flex our creative muscles, and you definitely did that here. Now, question, how did we mount this to the wall?
L brackets.
Just L brackets?
Your standard L brackets that you would use for a cornice or any kind of board-mounted valance. We made sure that we hid them on the edges of the valance, so they're not really shown. And there's no finials. Maybe thinking about that, there's just no way I could find something in my backyard that would serve as a finial.
You didn't want to hot glue pine cones to the end of the rod?
Maybe I should have done that. Maybe if I were to flex my creative muscle,
what? Next time you can get like a sailor's knot, like a rope knot, and ends it
Yeah.
that way. See,
Yeah,
there you go.
that's a really good
Yep.
idea. Speaking of sailors, we're using a sailor's rope on
Uh-huh.
a future project that we're doing for Rose. It's a rope that's like this thick. It's like 2 inches thick,
Hmm.
and we're running it all along the cornice. We've done something like that before, and we're
Hmm.
repeating it again in the future project. So that's
Well, you better bring it here to WTF Live so all of us can enjoy that whole rope situation.
I shall, I shall.
Alrighty, everyone. So this concludes episode number 53, Kids Rooms. And before we go, we have a couple of free goodies that we want to be sure to let you know about. For WindowWorks, Luann wrote a book, architectural, or an ebook, or she's written many books, but for WindowWorks purposes, it's Architectural Digest isn't coming. 10 things you need to know about custom window treatments. So if you're new to the window treatment game, this is a window treatment 101. So head on over to WindowWorks and download your free copy.
Awesome. And from Vitalia Inc., we also have a free goodie for you. It is a beautiful downloadable ebook that we called 37 and a half window treatment ideas for you to use, swipe, steal, and use immediately on your next project. And you can grab yours at vitaliainc.com. It's a curated compilation of many of our projects full of inspiration and education.
And to keep up with all things Luann and what's happening in the podcast, head on over to luannigara.com. And if you want to listen to the audio version where Luann and Vita discuss window treatments and the business, and you guys cover all sorts of topics there.
We do. You know, we started off with going into the intricacies of actual window treatments, and then we kind of it went on in the direction of more business type topics.
Yeah.
We talked about different business models for interior designers and how to incorporate window treatments. And then we really went more in the direction of business best practices.
Yeah.
As it relates to window treatment. So it's interesting that this part of WTF is very visual, and we are giving you a lot of inspiration, education, and we're supporting it with visuals, whereas Luann and I talk more about the business side of the window treatment business.
So you need to just watch this and listen to that one too, because you get the best of both worlds.
Complementing, exactly.
There you go.
And I cannot let you go without just giving you a little bit of my information. So in case you are in the Philadelphia, I need to, somebody's calling me. In case you are, for those designers who are in the Philadelphia area and would like support with their window treatments, we, Vitalia Inc. Window Treatments and Awnings, would love to support you to be your one-stop shop, your go-to resource. We give VIP treatment, concierge level, white glove service for interior designers ready to fly first class in the world of window treatment. So give me a call, email, DM, PM. I'm here to support you guys.
And if you are in the New Jersey and New York area and you have a window treatment project or kids room or baby's room that you need help with, please be sure to give us a call. We would be happy to help you figure out any of those nitty details, like where to place your ombre. Or if you have an awning project, we would also be glad to help you on that as well.
And we will go into our backyards and search around for just the right stick, and maybe next time we'll even find a pair of pine cones to grill on the ends. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone, and be sure to join us here every Friday, because if it's Friday,
it's WTF Live.
Window Treatment Friday Live. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.